also said many times that Alberta's aim is to double our oil production in the next 10 to 15 years and to diversify our export markets. And that means not only reaching global customers, but ensuring Canadians can benefit from our resources here at home. All Canadians deserve a stable, secure, and reliable energy supply. Alberta is ready to provide that stability and be the heart of a more energy sovereign and economically resilient Canada. After signing an agreement last year to work together with Alberta and Saskatchewan to build new pipelines through an economic corridor from Alberta to Ontario, the government of Ontario is here today to unveil a potential route for a new 3,300-kilometer oil pipeline from Hardisty, Alberta to Sarnia, Ontario. Known as the Northern Shield Energy Corridor, this project would pave the way for Alberta's barrier-free access to domestic refineries and markets in eastern Canada.
The Northern Shield Energy Corridor will include a new pipeline built using Canadian steel by Canadian workers that will bring oil from Hardisty, Alberta, to new and expanded refineries in Sarnia, Ontario, including Sarnia's vital energy and shipping routes. The Northern Shield Energy Corridor would move on estimated 500,000 barrels of oil per day, with the ability to expand to 800,000 barrels per day, bringing new capacity to Ontario refineries and delivering critical redundancy for existing pipelines.
Let's look at this. The proposed Northern Shield pipeline corridor is being framed as nation-building infrastructure. And supporters see energy security, economic growth, and reduced dependence on foreign markets. Critics, though, continue to question environmental impacts and long-term demand. So, why have we all of a sudden witnessed Alberta and Ontario aligned? Well, back last year during some of the First Ministers' meetings, and at that time, there was, the whole thing between Alberta and British Columbia and the federal government over the pipeline that Smith wanted to build going to British Columbia to get oil going to Asia. And Ford was looking at some issues related to wanting to get more oil coming east from the west, instead of relying on it coming from the East Coast, normally bought offshore.
Right.
And at a time when they were talking about lowering interprovincial trade barriers, which some have been, there are still some that are outstanding, but Smith and Ford got together and they started talking about it. And of course, you've got Sarnia, which has refineries, and they're looking for more oil. And Ford was talking on this clip about the fact that expanding and new refineries in Sarnia. So they need a secure supply. And the secure supply, obviously, is coming from the west. So what does that do? That also eases some of the talk about Alberta and the fact that Ontario and East weren't getting any Western oil. They were, buying it offshore. So you've got that side of it. It's energy security versus environmental politics. And you're going to get the uproar over the environmental side of things, but that's just normal. That's part of the wear and tear for the process overall. But the fact of the matter is, Alberta has oil. And there was an article I saw the other day where the number of requests for new permits to drill wells in Alberta has increased. Yeah. I forget what. I can't remember the percentage now, but since 2014, it's up significantly, the numbers of permit applications. So there is a real desire and need for that oil. They're not punching holes into the ground just for the fun of it. They obviously feel that the reserve is there, and we're sitting on, the fourth largest reserve in the world? And there's still a demand, despite what the environmentalists will tell you. There is a demand, and there will continue to be a demand for oil a lot longer than what some of the environmentalists are thinking will be the actual case. Because again, as I have said on so many occasions, just about everything we touch in our daily lives is related somehow to a petroleum-based
byproducts.
Yeah, exactly. So you have that side of it. And also, what does it mean? Well, the East-West infrastructure will help to boost national unity throughout all of this. God knows we need that, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and right now, you've got about 20% of the population of Alberta still pushing and you know, with the dream of Alberta becoming a separate country. And then over here in our own province, we're going to be going through the same thing, and you know, it's going to be getting heavier or stronger and pushed at us more so probably beginning more around the middle of next month, going into October when we go to the polls.
Yeah.
So the fact that we can, and here's the other key thing. The oil coming from Alberta to the refineries in Sarnia now, the pipeline that they are using, and this is key to sovereignty, the pipeline they are using dips down somewhere in Manitoba, in through the States, and then back to Ontario. So, in effect, we lose control for a portion of that, and could become a choke point and choke off the refineries in Sarnia, just like that, if the U.S. decided to do so. At least a Canadian route would give us
secure
sovereign control. However, Premier Wab Kinew is throwing cold water on the idea as it passes through Manitoba. And I believe I saw something the other day where part of the problem is the route skirts the shoreline of Winnipeg's water supply. So I can see that that might be a concern for sure, no question. However, I can't see Wab Kinew just blocking the idea altogether. If that's a concern, then everybody sit down around a table and work with it. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wab Kinew's, you know what? He has every right to raise his hand and say, hang on a second, we got a couple of things we need to talk about here first. He didn't say no, but he says, these are the issues that we see right now. He's a very progressive, extremely intelligent young man, all right? He knows what's good for his province of Manitoba. He knows what's good for all of his citizens. It doesn't matter where they come from, and he understands the importance of this to Canada. And good for him for sticking his hand up. And by the same token, I know he's going to be part of the solution building in terms of accommodating his and his constituents' concern with this pipeline going across Manitoba's territory. I am not concerned about that. This is what I keep on saying, Gary. Some good opposition to good ideas gives you a better solution, right? Whether it's in government, whether it's we're talking about military spending, developing our defense strategies, no matter what. In this particular case, we're speaking about oil, securing our oil in the country. You need opposition to come up with a better solution, and I think this opposition from Manitoba is exactly that, and they will find that. That's the first observation, and I guess the second quick observation I can make, Gary, to what you said earlier on. Here we have a government that is promoting Canadian resources, and this one happens to be oil, bending over backwards to A, correct previous mistakes, B, to be able to jump ahead in leaps and bounds. So, I kind of look at this and say, all right, here's one of the major grievances that Alberta separatists have had is being able to have bigger diversity and control over their oil and getting it to market. Well, they cannot come out and argue against this joint proposal and solution between Ford of Ontario and Smith of Alberta in addressing that. And then last week we had the discussion between Alberta and getting oil out to British Columbia. So, that entire point of argument for the Alberta separatists more and more is starting to sound like a moot point when it comes to oil because they are looking at getting that solution driven as quickly as possible. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on that one there.
Here's a good point as well. Like, it's irritating that the pipeline won't continue to the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Why
Absolutely.
won't it continue to the East Coast? Well, you and I, Eddie, are living in the
We're living in
roadblock.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the East Coast, unfortunately. And it burns my butt, to put it bluntly, that here we are, province that gets the largest share of equalization payments, a province that has the second highest population in the country, next to Ontario, and we're getting the largest share of equalization payments, a province that's rich in hydro generation capacity. There are, lumber, farming, and we do sit on top of, from what I understand, a number of natural gas fields, and they have so far over the years refused to develop those. So what do you do?
Well, you know what? Quite frankly, if I'm someone that likes pain, Ottawa will look at Quebec and say, "Look, we are building this pipeline to the east. Otherwise, there's going to be some discussion on the equalization payments. You want to see a province squirm?
Yeah, I'd
Seriously, you
love to
want
see
a
that.
province squirm? Oh my God! You want to see a province squirm? Cut back on the equalization payments and see what happens."
And here's the thing, Eddie, like, you cut back on the equalization payments. When you look at the amount of money they're receiving in these equalization payments, and you look at our tax regime in this province,
Yep.
we should be just rolling in the money. But
Right.
yet our healthcare system is, in a state of decline.
Hmm.
And there's just a whole host of things that all goes back to provincial governments, current and previous, plus a couple of
Mismanagement.
referendums thrown in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes no sense. And I'll tell you, if they lost those equalization payments, or a good chunk of them, the governments, that the parties in this province would be in serious trouble, because I don't think any of them would be able to run the province and pull it out of the economic decline that we would be in as a result of that lost money.
Well, ironically, in our show last week, Gary, the separatist movement here in Quebec, and I don't want to go too deeply into that now, it's another segment, but the separatist movement in here, Quebec, are basically saying, "Oh, we can do it on our own without Canada's equalization payments." Well, if that's the statement that's being made by opposition here, or even the existing government, well, to me, that's a cue for Ottawa to say, "Oh, okay, well, thank you very much for that. Let me take advantage of this, and we're running the pipeline over to New Brunswick, and if not, we're just going to cut it down to 25%. How does that sound?" I don't know, Gary. I mean, you and I have both negotiated contracts before. It's an easy one for me to put on the table and say, "Okay, here you go." It's like,
Yep.
that just, and you know what? Deborah's absolutely right. There should have been a pipeline out there years ago.
Well, Energy East.
That would have exposed us to markets in Europe who are dying for petroleum product, right?
Mm-hmm. Anyway, yes, that's a whole other. That could be a whole show. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let's wrap it up with the fact that infrastructure decisions made today are going to shape Canada's economy for decades. And that's, we really have to get our heads around that fact.
Yeah.
All levels of government have to get their heads around that fact. And right now, we're on the cusp. Yes, it's tough. So, the economic situation around the world is tough right now. A lot of it thanks, in a large part, to someone we thought was an ally who proved, no, that's not the case. So everyone suffers. But in the long run, this country right now, just with the defense spending, never mind anything else, but we are on the cusp of greatness. And we have to embrace it and roll with it. So, what's our takeaway?
Very well said. Well, our takeaway: Canada's energy debate is no longer simply about oil. It's about resilience.